A corrupt racist officer mocked a black man, thinking he could humiliate him without consequences. But when the man stepped forward and revealed his FBI badge, the officer's arrogance turned to fear in the most satisfying way. This is the story that will leave you cheering for justice. Before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow's special episode is one you definitely don't want to miss. The red sun hangs low over Riverton, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt of Highway 16. Marcus Johnson grips his steering wheel at exactly 10 and 2, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. The speedometer of his 3-year-old Camry reads precisely 5 miles below the limit, a habit as ingrained as breathing. Blue lights explode in his rear-view mirror, pulsing against the darkening sky. Marcus's heart pounds against his chest, but his face remains a mask of practiced calm. 20 years as a federal agent hasn't erased the instinct, that immediate surge of adrenaline when those lights flash behind any black man in Riverton County. He pulls over with textbook precision. Blinker on, slow deceleration, far enough onto the shoulder for safety, hands visible on the wheel, interior light switched on, window down, license and registration ready but not in hand. The mental checklist runs through his mind like a prayer. One mistake, and Riverton police will make you pay. They always have. This town's history of racial violence isn't buried in distant past. It's alive in fresh Department of Justice investigations, in lawsuit settlements hidden in municipal budgets, in the cold sweat now beading on Marcus's forehead, despite the autumn chill. Heavy boots crunch on gravel. Officer Daniels approaches with his hand already resting on his holster, jaw set tight beneath mirrored sunglasses that reflect Marcus's own composed expression back at him. License and registration. No greeting, no explanation. The officer's stance is wide, aggressive, as if approaching an armed suspect rather than a middle-aged man in business casual. Good evening, officer. May I ask why I'm being pulled over? Marcus's voice is measured, professional, the same tone he uses in federal briefings. You were swerving. The lie comes easily, without hesitation. You been drinking tonight? Marcus hasn't touched alcohol in 15 years. No, sir, I haven't. I was driving straight, maintaining my lane. Officer Daniels ignores the response. Where you coming from? Where you headed? Rapid-fire questions designed to find inconsistencies where none exist. Marcus notices the dashboard camera's indicator light is dark when it should be glowing red. The first warning sign this isn't a routine stop. Visiting family, sir. Heading back to my hotel in Westridge. The officer circles the sedan, flashlight beam slicing through windows despite the remaining daylight. Nice car for a visitor. What do you do that lets you afford something like this? The implication hangs in the air between them. Marcus feels the familiar burn of indignation beneath his skin, but his expression never changes. The irony isn't lost on him. His government-issued sedan is hardly luxury. Yet in Riverton, a black man in any car worth more than scrap becomes an immediate suspect. I work in law enforcement, sir. A partial truth, testing the waters. Officer Daniels scoffs. Security guard at the mall, huh? Step out of the vehicle. Inside, Marcus's mind races through protocols and procedures, assessing risks and options. Outwardly, he remains perfectly still, except for a single, almost imperceptible adjustment of his posture. I'm going to need to search this vehicle. Got a tip about someone matching your description transporting contraband through town today. Another lie. Fabricated probable cause. A tactic Marcus has documented countless times in cases across the country. But Officer Daniels has no idea who he's attempting to intimidate. What Officer Daniels didn't realize was who he had just pulled over, and the investigation that had just accidentally found its target. The fluorescent lights of the Atlanta FBI field office cast harsh shadows across crime scene photos and personnel files spread across the conference table. Marcus Johnson stands before a digital map of Riverton County, red pins marking incidents of suspected police corruption spanning 5 years. 3 overdose deaths connected to evidence that disappeared from lockup. 7 businesses paying protection fees to avoid fabricated health violations. 12 cases of excessive force conveniently missing body cam footage. Marcus taps each cluster of pins as Director Pearson and 4 fellow agents absorb the pattern. This isn't random corruption, it's organized. The director studies a photo of a heavy-set man in uniform shaking hands with the county commissioner. Chief Williams runs a tight ship. Nobody talks. "Someone might," Marcus says, sliding forward a personnel file. "Officer Rodriguez, 8 months on the force. According to our informant, he's expressed concerns about department practices." "You think he'll flip?" Agent Carter asks, skepticism evident. "I think he's scared. Wouldn't you be?" The last officer who reported misconduct found herself responding to false calls in dangerous areas, backup mysteriously delayed. Marcus closes the file, his decision already made. "I'm going in." Director Pearson removes her glasses. "Your personal connection to Riverton makes you uniquely qualified, but also vulnerable. Your family left for a reason, Marcus." The unspoken memory hangs between them. 16-year-old Marcus in the back of a patrol car, blood streaming from his split eyebrow, charged with resisting arrest while walking home from basketball practice. The beginning of the end for the Johnsons in Riverton. That's precisely why it has to be me. Marcus's voice carries the weight of 20 years of purpose. "I know their playbook because they used it on my family, on my community." Standing beside his vehicle as Officer Daniels circles it like a predator, Marcus feels the dissonance of his position. His FBI credentials rest inches from his fingertips in his jacket pocket, a shield that could end this harassment instantly. Yet the mission requires him to absorb the indignity, to play the role assigned to black men in Riverton, compliant, deferential, guilty until proven innocent. The earpiece hidden in his right ear crackles softly. "Hold steady, Marcus." Agent Rivera's voice comes through from the surveillance van parked half a mile down the road. "We're recording everything. Let him dig his own grave." Officer Daniels suddenly stops his circling, pressing a hand to his radio. "Dispatch, I'm going to need backup at mile marker 42. Possible narcotics situation." Another fabrication. Marcus's vehicle is spotless. Through the open window of the patrol car, Marcus glimpses something that freezes his blood. A duffel bag partially unzipped, revealing vacuum-sealed packages distinct to drug trafficking operations. Not evidence being transported to lockup. The packages lack official tags. This traffic stop isn't just harassment. He's stumbled into an active transport. Officer Daniels returns, voice lower, more threatening. "Step out of the vehicle, now." Marcus complies with measured movements. The moment his feet hit the pavement, Daniels shoves him against the car, beginning a pat-down that's unnecessarily rough. "Stay calm," Rivera whispers in his ear. "Backup is 4 minutes out." When Daniels moves to search the vehicle, Marcus watches through the side mirror as the officer's hand slips into his own pocket, emerging with a small bag of white powder. Classic move. Plant evidence, create probable cause, justify an arrest. "Sir, I don't consent to—" Marcus begins. The crunch of tires on gravel interrupts him as another patrol car pulls up. Marcus's earpiece chooses this moment to emit a high-pitched whine before going dead. Connection lost. The second officer emerges from the vehicle, and Marcus feels the ground shift beneath him. Despite the passing years, he immediately recognizes Tyler Washington, his childhood best friend, now wearing Riverton PD blue. The same friend who once promised they'd change this town together. "Need some help here, Washington?" Daniels calls, still holding the planted evidence out of Marcus's sightline. Tyler approaches slowly, eyes narrowing as he studies Marcus's face. A flicker of recognition crosses his features, quickly suppressed. "This your caller, Daniels?" Tyler asks. voice carefully neutral. Found this in his glove compartment. Daniels lies, finally bringing the planted bag into view. Another dealer thinking they can move product through our town. Tyler's gaze meets Marcus's for a split second, enough to communicate something, though Marcus can't be sure what. Is his old friend silently apologizing, or calculating how to protect himself? Chief will want to handle this one personally, Tyler says, reaching for his handcuffs. He leans in close as he moves behind Marcus, whispering words that chill him to the bone. Play along if you want to live through this, FBI man. Marcus's mind races. Tyler knows who he is, but is he offering help or making a threat? With his earpiece dead and backup unaware of the escalating danger, Marcus must make an impossible choice: maintain his cover and risk becoming another statistic, or reveal himself and compromise an investigation years in the making. The cold metal of handcuffs bites into Marcus's wrists as Officer Daniels secures them with unnecessary force, wrenching his arms higher than protocol allows. Pain shoots through Marcus's shoulders, but his expression remains impassive. A lifetime of practice, hiding reactions to injustice. You picked the wrong town to pass through, Daniels hisses, shoving Marcus against the patrol car. Folks like you need to learn respect. The thinly veiled racial undertone hangs in the humid evening air. Tyler stands slightly apart, his posture rigid, with what only someone who knew him would recognize as discomfort. Marcus's mind races, even as his body appears defeated. 20 years of FBI tactical training crystallizes into rapid-fire calculations. His backup team is out of contact. The cruiser's camera is suspiciously off, and 2 officers, one corrupt, one unpredictable, are about to transport him with planted evidence and what appears to be actual narcotics in their possession. Daniels's grip tightens, fingers digging into pressure points on Marcus's arm, a pain compliance technique not taught in any official police academy. Still think you're special? Still think your government job matters here? A dangerous line crossed. Marcus flashes back to case files he's memorized. Victor Reyes, found with a broken jaw after a routine traffic stop. Sandra Williams, sexually assaulted during a welfare check. James Cooper, shot 7 times when officers feared for their lives, his only weapon a cell phone. Through the patrol car window, Marcus catches another glimpse of the duffel bag, now partially exposed. Not just a few packages. This is a major transport. The scale suggests connection to the Alvarez cartel they've been tracking across state lines. This isn't just local corruption. It's part of something far bigger than anticipated. Officer Washington, Marcus says calmly, using Tyler's title rather than his name. I believe the dashboard camera in your vehicle is malfunctioning. Might want to check that before transport. A calculated risk. Tyler's eyes narrow slightly, understanding the implication. Without speaking, he moves toward his vehicle, seemingly to check the camera. In the momentary distraction, Marcus shifts his weight, pressing his hip against the car in a way that appears natural, but activates the secondary recording device hidden in his belt buckle. A soft, double vibration against his abdomen confirms it's working. Actually, Officer Daniels, Marcus continues, voice shifting subtly to a more authoritative tone. I'd like to speak with your supervisor before we proceed. Shut your mouth, Daniels snaps, reaching for the patrol car door. That supervisor would be Captain Reynolds, correct? The one currently under federal investigation for evidence tampering. Marcus locks eyes with Tyler as he delivers this partial truth, information not publicly known. Tyler freezes, hand on his vehicle door. The calculated revelation lands precisely as intended. Recognition flashes across his face, not just of Marcus's identity, but understanding of what his presence here means. Fear, shame. Then something unexpected. Relief. Daniels misses this exchange, focused on forcing Marcus toward the patrol car. I said, shut your... FBI Special Agent Marcus Johnson, Organized Crime Division. The words cut through the tension like a blade. And you've just made the biggest mistake of your career. Marcus straightens to his full height, professional authority radiating despite the handcuffs. Officer Washington, I believe you'll find my credentials in my left inside jacket pocket. Tyler moves without hesitation, retrieving the leather wallet and flipping it open to reveal the gold badge and identification card. Daniels's face contorts from confusion to shock to primal fear in the span of seconds. His hand jerks toward his weapon, a movement both men anticipate. I wouldn't, Marcus says with deadly calm. That would upgrade your charges from corruption to attempted murder of a federal agent. Besides, we're being watched. On cue, black SUVs materialize from both directions on the highway, lights cutting through the dusk. Agent Rivera leaps from the first vehicle, weapon drawn. Hands where I can see them, now, she commands. Daniels freezes, then slowly raises his hands. Agent Johnson, are you all right? Rivera calls, advancing with tactical precision. Situation secure, Marcus responds, turning to present his handcuffed wrists to Tyler. Officer Washington was just about to assist me. Tyler unlocks the cuffs with shaking hands. Marcus, Save it for the debrief. Marcus cuts him off, voice professional but not unkind. As federal agents secure Daniels and begin processing the scene, Marcus rolls his shoulders, working feeling back into his arms. The duffel bag from Daniels's cruiser is carefully removed and documented, enough product to supply 3 counties. You were right about the cartel connection, Rivera says quietly, handing Marcus an evidence bag containing the planted drugs. But this is just the surface. We found account numbers on Daniels's phone, linking directly to offshore holdings we've been tracking for months. Marcus nods, watching as more vehicles arrive, not just FBI but also State Police Internal Affairs. That's not all, Tyler interjects, his voice low. For the first time, Marcus truly looks at his childhood friend, noting the dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his jaw. I've been working with Internal Affairs for the past 4 months, wearing a wire, gathering evidence against Williams and his operation. Marcus stares in disbelief. You're an informant? I joined the force thinking I could change things from inside. Tyler's laugh is hollow. Naive, right? But when I saw how deep it went, I had to do something. A state police lieutenant approaches, nodding respectfully to Tyler before addressing Marcus. Agent Johnson, we've been building this case for over a year. Your presence here tonight wasn't accidental. What do you mean? Someone in your office leaked information about your operation, the lieutenant explains. Williams knew FBI was coming. Tonight's random stop was Daniels's attempt to identify federal agents in town. The pieces click into place. The surprising aggression, the immediate escalation, the planted evidence, all designed to flush out any undercover agents before the main operation. Marcus looks between Tyler and the lieutenant, suddenly understanding the true complexity of the web he stumbled into. This wasn't just about catching corrupt officers. This was about revealing who in the FBI couldn't be trusted. Red and blue lights paint the highway like a chaotic canvas as Officer Daniels is placed in the back of an FBI vehicle. The handcuffs that were on Marcus's wrists just minutes ago now secure the corrupt officers. Justice has a certain symmetry sometimes. Marcus maintains his professional composure as he briefs the tactical team, his voice steady, his gestures precise. Every inch the federal agent in command. Only Agent Rivera notices the slight tremor in his hand as he points to evidence markers. We've got this, she says quietly. Take 5. Alone in his government sedan, Marcus finally allows himself a moment of vulnerability. He grips the steering wheel until his knuckles turn white, then releases it with a long, shuddering breath. The adrenaline crash hits him all at once, not just from tonight's confrontation, but from 20 years of carrying Riverton's wounds. He catches his reflection in the rearview mirror and sees, for just a moment, his 16-year-old self, confused, angry, bleeding from police batons. The memory no longer carries the same sharp pain, but has transformed into something else. Purpose. The Atlanta FBI field office buzzes with activity. Evidence boards have expanded to cover entire walls, connecting Officer Daniels to Chief Williams, Williams to county officials, and all of them to the Alvarez cartel's distribution network. What began as an investigation into local corruption has evolved into one of the largest police corruption cases in the state's history. 7 officers in custody, Director Pearson announces to the assembled team. 19 pending indictments. And this morning, the mayor announced emergency measures to reform the department. Marcus studies the evidence chain on the screen, drugs moving through police vehicles, protection money filtering through shell companies, victims silenced through intimidation. A system perfectly designed to perpetuate itself until someone broke the cycle. The district attorney wants to meet, Pearson adds, glancing at Marcus. She's concerned about the challenges ahead. In the DA's office, the reality of what they're facing becomes clear. The blue wall is real, District Attorney Hayes says frankly, sliding a folder across her desk. 3 witnesses already recanting, community members afraid to testify. And half the town sees this as outsiders attacking their own. Marcus reviews the statements without surprise. We expected resistance. Can I be honest, Agent Johnson? Hayes leans forward. Cases like this rarely lead to substantive change. We'll get some convictions, headlines for a week, then business as usual. Marcus closes the folder. With respect, Madam DA, that's only true if we allow it to be. Camera flashes punctuate the press conference as Chief Williams and 3 senior officers are led into the courthouse in handcuffs. Marcus stands at the podium, FBI seal behind him, addressing the crowd of reporters and community members. Today's arrests are not the end, but the beginning, he states, his deep voice carrying across the crowd. Last year alone, 943 police departments across this country faced similar investigations. What makes Riverton different is what happens next. He outlines the structural issues that allowed corruption to flourish. Lack of oversight, intimidation of whistleblowers, community disenfranchisement. Not just pointing to individuals, but to systems. A badge should never be a shield from accountability, Marcus continues, making eye contact with young officers at the back of the room. It should be a symbol of responsibility, to protect and serve everyone equally. The porch of Marcus's childhood home needs a fresh coat of paint, but the rocking chairs are exactly as he remembers. He sits beside Mrs. Jackson, his former neighbor, now in her 80s, listening to stories of the neighborhood's changes since his family left. Never thought I'd see you back here, she says, her weathered hands wrapped around a glass of lemonade. Especially not wearing that badge. Neither did I, Marcus admits. Down the street, Tyler approaches slowly, tentatively, as if unsure of his welcome. The 2 men, once inseparable as boys, now on opposite sides of a gulf created by their different paths, regard each other with complicated emotions. Why didn't you leave? Marcus finally asks. After everything this town did to us? Tyler takes a seat on the porch steps. Someone had to stay and fight, even if it meant playing their game long enough to learn the rules. Their conversation continues as twilight falls, not as federal agent and informant, but as 2 men reckoning with different approaches to the same injustice. At the newly formed Community Police Oversight Committee meeting the next day, Marcus watches Officer Rodriguez, the rookie whose concerns had first opened a crack in the department's wall of silence, present evidence he'd been too afraid to share before. We're establishing a special training unit, Director Pearson tells Marcus afterward. Officers embedded with federal agents to learn investigative techniques for internal corruption. We want you to lead it. Marcus looks around the community center where the meeting is being held. At the mix of faces, black and white, old and young, skeptical and hopeful. Let me think about it. Change comes slowly to places like Riverton. The new oversight committee faces resistance. The trials of corrupt officers are delayed by procedural motions. Community trust rebuilds in inches, not miles. Yet sitting in that same community center a month later, surrounded by local leaders planning next steps, Marcus feels something he never expected to find in Riverton again: possibility. Justice isn't a moment, he reflects, watching residents debate police budget reallocations with newly appointed officers. It's a practice, a commitment renewed daily. He knows that what happened on that highway was not a perfect victory. Some corrupt officers will escape charges. Some systemic problems will resist reform. The work remains unfinished. But for the first time in 20 years, it is actually work being done. When systems fail us, do we work to change them from within or build something entirely new? What would you have done in Marcus's position?